What's going on, guys? Nathan here. Today we're going to talk about the 6 reasons why some people always seem to win at poker and most other people not so much. These are the 6 things that I have found in my nearly 20 years in this game, 10 years as a professional, that most good winning poker players do. Let's jump into it. So counting down from 6 to 1, here we go. Number 6 is hand reading. So guys, hand reading is something that all good poker players know how to do, and that is essentially narrowing down the range of their opponents. A lot of people get this twisted. They watch a lot of Hollywood movies. They think it's about putting that man on a hand. Guys, that's not how we view the game in the modern era. It is all about narrowing down the range of hands that anyone can have in a specific situation, and I'm going to walk you through an example of that right now. So you have pocket aces, and a tight player, now that is very, very key to the equation here, raises you on the river of 3, 6, 7, 8 jack rainbow, and what I mean by that is that there is no possible flush. Guys, in this situation, I can tell you from having played over 10 million hands of poker that a tight player, usually these players are very passive as well, this player is going to wind up here with one of 5 hands 90% of the time when they raise you on the river: pocket 3s, pocket 6s, pocket 7s, pocket 8s, or pocket jacks, also known as a set in poker, 3 of a kind, beating your 1 pair of hand. Even though we've got pocket rockets, it is no good on this board. Guys, as I mentioned in my first book, the tightest player at the table, when they raise you on the turn, it is usually the nuts, and when they raise you on the river, it is always the nuts. And the nuts is just a slang term in poker for the best hand possible. Guys, you need to understand player type if you truly want to get ahead in this game. Tight players do not play pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens, or ace king like this. They would have raised you pre-flop, or they would have raised you at some point on the flop. Guys, don't play into their game in a situation like this. Understand how to hand read versus the tightest player at the table like this, and learn to lay down your hand when they raise you on the river, and you're going to be a lot more successful. All right, let's move on to thing number 5 that some poker players do but most don't, and that is double barreling the weaker regs. So let's talk about a different player type now, which is the weak regulars. The regulars stand for those players that you see at the table day in and day out. They are good poker players. They're watching videos like this. They study the game. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a sec, by the way. So these are not recreational players, and we're going to talk about the recreational players also. There are fishy friends in a moment here. These are the players who are tight players, similar to the opponent in our last hand, but they are very risk averse. And what I mean by that is they don't like to go to showdown without a very, very strong hand. Learning how to bluff these players has been absolute money for me in recent years, and I'm going to give you another example right now. So you raise up ace king offsuit, and one of these, what I call a weak tight regular, calls you. Flop comes down with a 10-5-4 rainbow. You bet, they call. All right, so in a situation like this, we're going to assume that they probably have something. It's possible they have a 10, but it's very possible also they just have a hand like pocket 7s, pocket 8s that they're just hanging on with, and they just want to see what you're going to do on the turn. So turn comes with the jack of diamonds, and this is what I call a scare card in poker, guys, because it is another big card that's going to be very scary to a hand like pocket 7s or pocket 8s. So what you should be doing in a spot like this is what I call double barreling. A double barrel in poker, by the way, is when you raise pre-flop, you bet the flop, and then you bet the turn. This is a very, very powerful play in poker that basically draws a line in the sand and forces weak poker players like this often to fold their hand. And this is a beautiful thing, of course, because we only have ace high right now. Remember, we only have ace king, guys, but I hope that you also understand that with this card on the turn here, we picked up a gut shot to the nut straight. If it came with a queen on the river, we would make the unbeatable Broadway straight 10 to ace. So guys, bottom line, learn how to double barrel on scare cards like this, especially against the weaker regulars, and you're going to have a lot more success at the poker tables. All right, moving on to number 4, and that is they never play in bad poker games. Guys, I've talked about this endlessly on the channel here. By the way, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss my new strategy videos. All the money in poker comes from one player type, guys. It's not the ones we already discussed. You can make a little bit of money bluffing them like we just talked about, but all of the big money in this game, guys, comes from the fish, the recreational players, the players who make large, egregious, fundamental mistakes, like the player that you see on your screen there. I put an image of my online poker table, and you see that the player marked in blue is playing a crazy 55% of their hands. Now, I'm not going to break down the stats in detail detail here. I've already got whole other videos on the channel talking about that. These are HUD stats, by the way, that you can get on your online poker table. I'll include a link to the HUD that I personally use as a 10+ year pro in the description below. But guys, in a nutshell, somebody playing 55% of their hands is 100% a recreational player, what we call a fish. This player is a large losing player. And hopefully you've also noticed that I am on the direct left of this player. I am Black Rain 79, and therefore I'm going to have direct position on this player in almost every single hand, which is going to allow me to see what they do first before I decide to make my decision. And this is a massive proven statistical advantage in poker. You're gonna win so much more when you have position on somebody. So guys, in a nutshell, this is literally how you win at poker. Mic drop video could be over right now. If you do just this one thing, I guarantee your results are going to skyrocket at the poker table. There is always one clear recreational poker player at your table, or else you leave. And you also want to get the seat, if possible, on their left, so you're going to have position on them in every single hand. All right, guys, let's move on to thing number 3 that all good poker players do, and that is floating versus the aggressive players. So let's talk about a totally different player type now, and that is the player type that I get asked about the most consistently, and those are the aggressive players. And floating, by the way, is the act of just calling them in position. By the way, I break this down in much more detail in my free poker cheat sheet. I will link that up in the description below if you want to dive much deeper into all of my 5 major poker player types, what hands I suggest playing in every single situation, when to bet, raise, bluff, so on and so forth. Once again, it's all in my free poker cheat sheet, top link in the description below. But basically, you've seen these players before. They like to play a lot of hands. They like to bluff a lot. So we need to have a robust strategy to call them lighter in some situations. Let me give you an example right now. So you have ace king offsuit, and on the turn, the board reads a 10, 8, 8, 5 rainbow. No possible flush on this board. And the loose and aggressive player decides to bet again. Guys, sometimes, and I do want to be clear here, I'm not always calling here, but sometimes you do need to call again here, for the simple reason that we need to understand that a loose and aggressive player is going to be bluffing again here a lot with hands like ace queen, ace jack, king queen, king jack, queen jack, jack 9, 7 9, 7 6. There's tons more I could have named here, guys. And even if this player actually does have some sort of value hand like pocket 7s, pocket 6s, or even a 10, we still have 6 clear outs with the ace and the king, and we also have counterfeit outs that a lot of beginner poker players fail to recognize. For example, if this player does have pocket 6s and the river comes with another 10, for example, our ace plays. Remember, it's the best 5-card poker hand in poker, guys. And so even if this player does have some sort of small pocket pair now, they can be counterfeited on the river. So guys, in position here, you often want to be calling again. I love to do it, especially on paired boards like this, because it's just very unlikely that this player actually has what they're representing. Guys, bottom line, poker is all about understanding the player and playing the player type. I would never do this against the tight passive players that we already talked about earlier in this video, but versus the aggressive poker players, this is how you beat them. You have to make some lighter calls in situations like this when you technically don't have anything. All right, let's move on to thing number 2 that some poker players do, and that's why they always seem to be winning, and that is studying away from the tables. Guys, if there is one thing that has helped me more than anything throughout my entire professional poker career, that is improving my game away from the tables. Guys, good poker players, they never think that they know it all. That's what fish do. They're in the comment section. They're at the poker table. They know all the math. They're the poker genius. They've watched Daniel Negreanu. They know it all. They figured out this game completely. Guys, good poker players, they never get an ego like this. They never think that they've climbed to the top of this mythical knowledge mountain of poker, because guys, there's so much fail with that. Number one, the game of poker is always changing. So what you know today might not work tomorrow. You have to evolve with the game. That's one of the biggest things that I've done to keep myself on top in this game and continue to stay profitable over the years, is to evolve with the game, continue improving on my skill set, learning the latest strategies, and so on and so forth. How do you do that? Well, number one, you study your hands in a program like Poker Tracker, for example, a HUD software program. If you play online poker, you can read high-level poker books. There are so many these days, and of course, also high-level poker training videos. I will include everything that I recommend in the description description below. Bottom line, guys, do not get an ego in this game. I have seen so many good poker players come and go over the years because they get an ego in this game, they think they know everything, and eventually the game passes them by and they end up in what I call poker's graveyard. Guys, be that person who stands the test of time in this game. Don't ever get an ego, always be improving. All right, guys, so the number one thing to make sure that you're one of those handful of poker players who is always winning, and that is do not allow yourself to tilt. Guys, if there is one thing that I've noticed over the years from the hundreds of students that I've coached in this game, is that the emotional side of the game is actually what holds them back more than anything, and that is specifically getting frustrated over bad beats. Guys, I often talk about understanding what you signed up for when you start playing poker. You need to understand that losing is, unfortunately, an integral part of the game, but it's also the part of the game that lets the bad players win sometimes, which allows them to keep blaming all of their losses away on their bad luck and keep reloading their account and fueling the entire industry, including your profits. Let me give you an example once again. You've got Ace King. We've had a lot of Ace King in this video, but you know, it's a hand that a lot of people struggle with. You are going to lose 24% of the time, guys, versus Ace Jack if you just go all in pre-flop. That is 1 out of every 4 times, guys. It is not a big shocker when a 24% shot comes through. It's gonna happen a lot. It doesn't mean that the site's rigged. It doesn't mean they're cheating. It doesn't mean that the game is fixed. It's actually just math. All right, guys, like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. And once again, if you want to know my entire strategy to smash the small and mid stakes games, make sure you grab a copy of my free poker cheat sheet. That will be the top link in the description below. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time.